Welcome to the Page Turners Podcast, where book lovers unite to celebrate the enchanting world of fiction. With your host, Paul A. Brooks. In each episode, we'll dive into the captivating realms of storytelling, exploring the pages that transport us to magical places and introduce us to unforgettable characters. In each episode, we'll embark on a creative expedition through the minds of seasoned and emerging writers to unravel the mysteries and unveil the passion that fuels their stories. Join us on this odyssey through the pages and pixels of imagination, where words become worlds and stories illuminate our lives. So, pour yourself a coffee and immerse yourself in discussions about writing, gripping plots, heroes and villains, and the sheer joy of escaping into a well-crafted story.
In today's show, I had the pleasure of talking to Jenna MacLeod, author of Imatari and its forthcoming sequel, Chimera. She's a huge sci-fi fan who was raised on the classics, and she lives on the Emerald Coast of Florida with her family and her dogs. And she's intrigued by all things that are bizarre, unconventional and controversial, and although you'd never know it, she loves headbanging to heavy metal music. Now, our writing styles, our passion for the craft and sci-fi are so similar we could have talked for hours. This is author of Imatari, Jenna MacLeod. Hi Jenna, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for coming. I've been meaning to, and as I said earlier on, I've been meaning to get in touch with you for a while because your book and my book is quite similar in sort of ideas. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Good, good. No, you're in Florida, that's right. And you said earlier
Yes.
that in the Panhandle. Forgive me. Yeah, I know where Florida is on a map. I can point that little bit out. But as to the Panhandle bit, I'm not quite so sure. So whereabouts in Florida are you? Because it's quite a big state, isn't it?
It is. It's huge. We're actually outside of Pensacola.
Right. And again, that means nothing to me, but to all of you guys out there in the US, I'm sure you know exactly where that is, which is great. Now, because your book is similar, so you write sci-fi, that's right, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. So, and you've got one book out and another one coming out. So the book that's out now is called Imatari.
Mm-hmm. That's
Did I pronounce
correct.
that right? Yeah, good.
Yes.
And the second one, and we're going to talk about these books in a little bit more detail shortly. What's the second one called?
Chimera.
Chimera. All right, good. So we'll talk about those, but I want to talk about you as a writer first. So have you always written ever since you were a little?
I have. I actually grew up with 6 brothers. I'm the
Wow.
only girl.
Wow.
So I was second oldest, so very much helped take care of all the younger ones. But I always had a big imagination. Sometimes it would get really loud and very chaotic in that type of household. So I love to kind of go to my room and be able to have a quiet time. And I would write all different types of stories, fairy tales, what have you. My notebook would be full of scribbles. It was one of my favorite things to do.
Fantastic. So are you?
And I'm still doing it.
I was going to say you obviously you're still doing it, which is great. But are you solely a sci-fi writer, or do you dip your toes into other genres as well?
I'm a baby author. I'm a debut author. This is my first book that I have published, and then working on the sequel. But I actually have a couple other work in progresses that I'm working on, and then the other one is contemporary romance mixed with a thriller. So
Wow.
I'm a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
I love different genres. I love mixing it up, but it just happens to be that sci-fi is very close to my heart, and that happens to be the first book that I wrote.
Yeah, that same for me actually. I do want to dip my toes into the sort of the worlds of mystery and thriller, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My books tend to be, certainly with the action scenes, that they're quite dark. So that kind of, maybe it's just my nature, I don't really know, but they are kind of dark in that respect. I think a lot of life experience and things like that come into play, that sort of come out on the pages as well, when I'm writing. Do you find the same?
Yes. Yeah. I was actually an emergency room trauma nurse for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Recently retired. Burned out of the profession, but I have a lot of experience and a lot of things that I saw, a lot of underbelly of society that really influenced my writing, and lots of gore, lots of really realistic wounds and fight scenes and whatnot. Lots of artery spray.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, my wife my wife is works for the emergency services, and she's got a very dark humor. And I think,
Yes, yes,
yeah, I was
you
going to
have
say,
to have it.
I was going to say you have. I suppose you have to have it to deal with the kind of scenes that you've got to deal with. So, do you find that that sort of dark humor comes into your writing as well?
Definitely.
Yeah, and once you've written it and you've read it back, how do you feel about it? Does it make you feel, oh, really? Or does it make you laugh? Or because you're kind of in that mindset already, how do you feel about it once you've written it?
It makes me laugh. It really does. And I don't really try to like keep a leash on that part of sense of my of humor. You either get it or you don't, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you find that there is it's really strange actually because culturally, I mean, British humor as opposed to US humor is vastly different, very, very
It
different.
is, yes.
So sometimes I struggle with that. But I would imagine that this kind of dark humor crosses borders because as I said, my wife working in the emergency services and you having done so as well, you I would imagine that the coping strategies are the same. So I wonder if it crosses borders quite comfortably that way. I'll have to ask
Oh,
her,
I'm
but
sure it does.
I'm sure it probably does, which is great. So let me ask you this one: why sci-fi? You kind of said earlier that it was a bit of a love for you. Why sci-fi to start off with?
I grew up reading a lot of sci-fi books. I mean, I blew through the entire Dune series when I was 11, 12.
Wow.
I really love thinking about how things would be in the future and it would be different. And I don't like thinking about like, oh, it could be worse, but also like how it could be better, how technology can influence humanity and how things can change, hence genetic engineering being one of the
Yeah.
topics or that's being explored in the book, especially in yours as well. It's just
Yeah.
really cool to imagine what it would be like. I've always loved sci-fi for that, just mixing different ideas and just taking it wherever your imagination can go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So so let me ask you, are you a plotter or a pantser? Because I ask everybody, are you a plotter or a pantser, do you think?
I'm kind of a hybrid, but I think the term is plantser that I've seen going around.
Brilliant.
Um, I work with an outline. I have to have an outline because otherwise, I can kind of be all over the place, and then I will fixate on a particular thing, and then I'll spend 2 months on one particular thing. So I have to kind of stay within a little bit of a schedule, what have you. Um, just an outline to work within.
Mhm.
But I do love leaving kind of bigger areas so as the story kind of moves along, like, the magic can happen. You can have those brilliant ideas that will pop in out of nowhere that you never would have started with.
Yeah.
Like the idea, the way I started off writing my book is vastly different to where like the finished product is now
Ah,
today, just because it's evolved and taken on a life of its own. And it's just such a beautiful thing.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Today, when I was writing, I'm coming up with the scene. This twist just popped into my head, um,
Mm.
and I thought, "Wow!" Well, I've made a note of it. It's in there, so I can't show it to you, but it's in. But yeah, because I thought, "Wow!" And I don't know where it came from. And I suppose, as you're kind of a hybrid, what you've just talked about is the sort of the pantser side of you coming in, allowing that kind of organic growth. I suppose we're all on that sort of spectrum, aren't we? Really, either well, you got plotter at one end, pantser at the other, and we're somewhere on that scale. Because like you, I don't have an outline as such, but I sometimes and often do use bullet points of sort of things that I want to put in a scene, or that needs to be included in a chapter, so that it either closes a loop that I've opened earlier on, or it moves the character arc a little bit further on down the line. So I kind of do that. That's probably about as plotty as I get, if you like. Um, Other than that, I'm very organic. I just allow it to happen. I mean, the conversations that my characters have, often they take on a life of their own. And I was
Hmm.
saying this yesterday, actually, when I was talking to John Schleicher. They I hear the conversation in my head, and I'm just literally writing it out while I'm listening to. So I'm not quite sure where it comes from. Again, that's going to be the pantser side of me, which is great. And I
Hmm.
love that. I love that kind of. organic growth where, and as you said earlier on, these things sort of explode and surprise you, and you don't know where things are going to go, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. And I think also it helps to keep the reader engaged sometimes, because if it's too formulaic, I think they can often see where the story's going to go. What do you think to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I have a little bit of a again an ADD ADHD side to where if you're watching a show or reading a book and you can just kind of feel the predictability of it,
Yeah,
there's just certain tropes that you can't escape. Like it just happens sometimes. The tropes will trope. It
yeah,
just
yeah.
it is what it is in that regard. But I hate when things that get really predictable and
Mm.
you just kind of tune out and you're like, I'm bored already, but I want to see what happens, I guess.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it is really nice when you can have kind of that organic nature to your storytelling to where you can really have some twists and turns that you weren't expecting, let alone your reader.
yeah. As a reader, because we're all readers as well, do you
Hmm.
find that when you're reading a book or even watching a movie or something like that, you kind of see it differently now as a writer? You can kind of see the structure of the story, how it comes out. Do you find that kind of, I know ruins not quite the right word, but it changes the way that you read and watch movies? Do you find that?
I do. I definitely agree with that. You can kind of pick up on certain story beats, like, here's the big sad, and then the hero's gonna come in and something's gonna happen. Then we're
Yeah,
gonna have, the chorus is gonna start building. Um, yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment, but I don't hate it though. I think
mm,
that it's just helping me just hone the craft with figuring out all of the parts of storytelling as well as what works, what you see in really popular things or things that you really like to watch and different types of stories that you like to consume. You can figure out, okay, this really works. I really like this.
yeah.
I want to use this, for mine, but
Yeah.
paint an homage as if it were.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I do the same. I have found myself sometimes I've got a notebook whilst I'm watching, a particular show or a series or something like that. I'll ask you about your writing routine in a moment. One of the things that I found, and I said this yesterday, it sounds a bit weird now, I'm going to say it again, but um, um, I presume you kind of, a lot of people do, they listen to music and all that sort of stuff when they're writing. I have found lately, I do this weird thing, whereas I like to watch gamers play video games on YouTube. So watching them,
That's so cool.
yeah, I've been watching the guys play Last of Us and Days Gone, which are kind of two apocalyptic
Yeah.
zombie kind of, which is gets me right in the zone. So, a lot of people say they'll listen to music, but they can't have the lyrics playing because that's distracting. I'm different. I need to have blaring music. But I also find that watching the video games, the guy's voice when he's kind of narrating through what's going on, and then of course the characters speak as well. Um, I find that it kind of helps me to stay in the zone of the scene or the chapter I'm writing at that time. So that's a bit of a weird thing. And it's something that's just sort of happened over the last couple of weeks or so. Try it. You might like it. I don't know. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's just me. I know it might be just I'm just weird. I don't know. So what's your writing routine now? How do you sit down to write a specific time? Do you write full time now? Presumably now you're retired.
I'm actually a stay-at-home mom right now. I'm married and have two young children
Okay.
that I actually homeschool. So
So how do you find the
most of my
time to
day is
write?
taking up. Oh, what's that?
How do you find the time to write? That's the question then with two little.
Yeah, I have to carve it out. Um, so most of my daytime is taking up with keeping up with them and taking care of my family. But I'm very much a night owl. I always
Okay.
have been. When I was a nurse, I worked night shift. That my brain just comes on at nighttime. So even though I try to write during the day, it'd probably be absolutely garbage. It would be terrible. So I try to write in the evenings, and I also write at night, just whenever I have time. And sometimes I won't write for a week or two.
Oh,
I won't have, I wait for the inspiration. I'm really just bipolar with it. Like there'll be nothing, and then I have a great idea, and then I'll just bang out like 3 chapters all in one sitting.
wow.
It's just how it kind of goes.
Yeah. So is that then the pantser in you that kind of
Mhm.
allows that to sort of spew out, so to speak? Um, wow, that's fantastic. I mean, I must, as I said to you earlier before we started recording this, I'm not particularly disciplined at the moment. I have been in the past, and I've said this before on other podcasts, that I've tried to keep a spreadsheet and do a word count every day. But I just found that I became competitive with myself.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yeah, I tried that as well. It's not
how
good.
did that go for you?
It stresses me out. I
Right.
can't. I can't. Yeah, the competitive, yes. And I don't like, I mean, I can definitely have a deadline. I can hold myself accountable if I have to really get something done,
Mm.
but it's not my preferred mode of being creative. It's not. But I can. Like it was when I'm editing, I can sit for as long as I need to just get it done because I hate
Yeah.
editing.
Oh,
But
me too. I just,
yeah.
oh,
Ah,
yeah,
oh my God. Yeah.
yeah. I find
It's the bane of my existence.
it really, I find it, I find it stifling. And I'm sorry for you editors out there who are watching this, but I do find it quite stifling. To sometimes, want to go back over it, and I think, oh, that's, I need to change this, and that idea that I've got to rewrite it and and change it that I find, I suppose, yeah, absolutely, nails on a chalkboard, isn't it? Is that horrible sound? But it feels kind of like that, really. But so what I try to do, I don't know how you do it, but I will write, I don't know, until I'm done for the day. But then when I start tomorrow, for example, I'll edit what I've written already, what I wrote yesterday. So it's only
Yes.
a small amount, and I feel I can cope with that. And I suppose I don't feel quite so critical of myself, when I do that. Whether or I don't know. I mean, do you have development editors and people like that sort of in the background? No.
No. Okay, so this is very my first attempt. I actually tried going the traditional route and I queried for almost a year. And then it took 5 years to write, just off and on. Tried the querying, heard back from a couple people, but it didn't go very far. And then I just let it sit for a year. And I didn't look at it. I didn't think about it. I just put it to the back of my mind, and then I came back at it with fresh eyes a year later. And then I went through it all and just refined everything. Um, but uh, but I definitely do the editing like you do. When I sit down, I go back over like a page or two and we'll reread where I'm at. Sometimes it's a longer period of time between writing sessions to kind of get back in the headspace and tweak things as I go.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that. I mean, someone like Stephen King, for example, I think in his book on writing, he leaves whatever he's written once he's finished a draft. He'll leave it for 3 or 6 months, then come
Mhm.
back to it. And you said you kind of left it for a year or so. So when you reread it, what did you think to it? What was your immediate impression of what you'd written a year ago?
I was better than I thought I
Yeah, yeah,
was. Yeah, and there were so many parts. It was like rediscovering it. Like, oh, I wrote this. That's right. This was really good. I love
yeah,
this part. I forgot about that.
yeah,
And then you also see the things that didn't work that you were kind of like nose blind to before, and then you can kind of come in and you can to reimagine it, move things around. To I think it only serves the story better. Kind of just because you can kind of get windshield ready. You stare at it for so long, your eyes start bleeding. You're like, this is enough. I need a break.
yeah, yeah.
But when you come back, you can appreciate it. You're, oh, this is the good stuff right here. And then you can also see the stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah, because it allows you, I think, to chip away at your sort of self-doubt, which we all as
Mm-hmm.
writers have. It is that fear that we're putting our baby out to the world, and it's
It's terrifying.
hoping no one's going to criticize it too hard. But we've got to do that. As writers, we want people to to read our stories. So I suppose that kind of self-doubt comes part and parcel. Again, even Stephen King still feels it now. I mean, however many 70 odd novels, however many he's written, he still feels that once he finishes it, it's not good enough. It's not right. Because I suppose I look at it like a painting. If you've got an artist who's painting, a picture or portrait, something like that, it can always never be quite finished. And
Mm-hmm.
at some point you've got to step away and go, right, no, that's it, it's done now. And then let the editors go to it
Mm-hmm.
and see how it feels after that. Yeah, so I think often, I've never managed to leave it for, I suppose, long enough to sort of go back and almost forget that I'd written it, if you like. So there's too short a space of time. But maybe, once I've got the next books out, that will give me time then to sit back and have another look. And I'm sure, you'll do exactly the same, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So going back now to your kind of writing routine, and I touched on music and what I do earlier on with the gaming. Do you listen to music as well while you're writing, or do you do anything weird like I do?
Yeah, I don't watch streamers, but I do listen to music. I'm a very avid metalhead. I love metal music. The heavier the better. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't assume that, but I am. Love going to shows, just headbanging. Oh yeah. But I don't listen to it all the time when I'm writing. Usually, maybe tenser scenes. It does actually relax me. It's very just kind of comforting again. It's a different thing. But I do like to listen to classical. Just it's very my place is very chaotic.
Yeah.
But I do like to listen to music when I'm writing. I find it very inspirational. It kind of keeps me in the zone or where I need to be when I'm writing. But it also kind of goes to which scenes I'm writing as well, or
Yeah.
what genre I'm listening to.
Yeah. I think I'm exactly the same, as you're down to the scene. I mean, if it's a brutal fight scene, then I mean, I like rock music particularly. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the older stuff, I would imagine, than you. But so I
Oh
listen
yeah,
to Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and all those
nice,
kind of guys,
nice.
really. So my playlist is full of that, but it's also got some softer stuff on there as well. We've even got some country music on there, which I love. So kind of across all of the different types of music, and again, depending on what I'm writing and what kind of mood that I need to be in, to kind of to convey the emotion, so it comes off the page when I'm writing it. So the music helps.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to hear the lyrics. Need to hear someone singing. And I think I said earlier on, a lot of people can't have lyrics going on. It's too distracting, and they just need the music. So I can't listen to classical music, funnily enough. And you were saying that you do. I find that hard to listen to. Maybe that's just how my mind works, but it's great that you do. So when you're writing, what sort of software do you use? Are you using anything particular like Scrivener or anything like that?
I use Scrivener. It's a
Okay.
love-hate relationship, but I've gotten there.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the skin in my teeth.
yeah, I was going to say a lot of people have that same sort of relationship with those kind of writing platforms. I mean, I've looked at Scrivener. I think we all have done it at some point. What is it that you like about it that makes you stick with it? And I'm just interested for my
Um,
own personal idea, really.
I like the organization of it. It just helps my brain kind of keep everything in track. I like with the toolbars on the side, and
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to format and collate everything. Those are my favorite parts of it. But it's also the only thing that I've known though that I started writing on it, and it's kind of my comfort zone. And I think now if I tried anything else, I'd get too mad trying to figure it out if I
yeah,
switched to anything else.
yeah.
So I'm gonna stay, but I'm just gonna be stubborn and angry about it. What about you? What do you use to write?
Well, I'm really simple. I just use Google Docs. That's it. I have tried Scrivener. I've tried a couple of others as well. But I don't know whether it's my internet speed or something like that, although it's supposed to be really fast. Who knows? But sometimes I find that, when I'm writing, if it lags a little bit, I find that really annoying, really, really
Mm.
frustrating. I mean, I use Pro Writing Aid. I don't know if you use that
I'd
with
use that for editing.
yeah, yeah. When I use it, but if I have it on and it's kind of listening, if you like, to what I'm and reading what I'm writing, it slows the process down. So I have to switch it off and then copy and paste it into Pro Writing Aid for it then to do its thing, which is great. It's really useful, as you said, for editing. It's
Hmm.
fantastic. But yeah, I just use Google Docs for the drafting. And then for the book itself, for formatting, I use Atticus. I don't know if you've heard of
Hmm.
that. Yeah,
I have.
yeah. I bought it. It's brilliant. I love it. It's I learned from the first book that I wrote that if you put certain things in what scene breaks, you use asterisks and things like that in the scene breaks, then when you're importing it into Atticus, it just does it immediately and formats it. Oh, it's brilliant. So I kind of love it
Nice.
in that respect. So those are really well, I've got three pieces of software that I use: Google Docs for the normal writing, and then Pro Writing Aid and Atticus. But do you? I mean, I don't know about you, but I have this fear because even Google's a third-party thing that I'm just going to lose all the stuff that I've written. So I've got copies of everything all over the place. Do you have those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. My hard drive is a mess from everything that I saved. Yeah, I do a hard save after every chapter, so there'll be like 40 different versions of it. Yeah, a little paranoid.
Absolutely, because I think if you don't, I mean, again, it might be just the paranoia in me as well. If I don't, and I've got to rewrite it, it'll be completely different. And I don't know. I just like to keep copies of everything as we kind of go through. All right, so now we know how you write and what you do to write and what you write on. Let's talk about your books first of all. So you've got one of them out right now, and you're in the process of writing Chimera. So let's talk about Imatari. So the series is called, because I've got it written here, Altera Domi or Domi.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Dummy,
Latin.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I Googled it, so I'm not very smart, so I just Googled it. So it means the other is at home or something like that in the series, or that's kind of the one Latin translation of
Yeah,
alternate
it's alternate home.
alternate home. That's much
Yeah.
better, cleaner, definitely. Yeah, that's good. And then imitari means to be imitated. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of the first clue about, the creatures that inhabit the story.
Perfect. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you about that. No, that's perfect. So let's talk about that, or I'll get you to talk about that. Talk about Imatari without giving too much away. Because Imatari is the world itself, isn't it? The planet, is that right? Or the world that
It's
they
actually,
inhabit?
it's the people. It's one of the major races in the story.
Okay.
Um, so the Imatari are like a group of genetically engineered humanoids. So they're like superhumans, as you could say. Advanced lifespan. They live several hundred years. They have advanced resistance to disease. Heightened capabilities. They're not really sure how they got there. It's just kind of that's how you start the story. The how they got there and how they came to be is another story for another day.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of Star
That is
Warsing it.
actually
I'm starting the universe
go.
in the
I was going to
middle
say
of
that's
everything.
perhaps where mine jumps into those bits
Yeah.
that you just kind of talks about. Sorry, carry on.
No, you go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah.
So that's the Imatari portion of it. So I named it after the main group of people, and then there is an alternate of race group of people that are half Imatari, the Chimera. So they're half Imatari, but they're also have been spliced with an animal DNA. So one of my two main characters are Rinius. He is like Imatari, and then there is Vera, and she is a Chimera. She's actually a half Imatari, half Falcon, as it were. So they're kind of the results of experimenting and chimerism. But I was actually really inspired by CRISPR technology,
Oh
how
yeah.
far that's come along. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I kind of came up with the idea. So the Chimera are lesser. They're the second rung of society, even lower. Second's kind of being nice. The Imatari are like the ruling class. They're the elite. Um, so they start off with uh, Orinius, or Rin, as we kind of come to know him. He lives in Zone 1 with his mother and his sister, which is one of the last mining colonies. And then there's the central city, which is Centralis. That's the main city. So they're all starting out in the main city. And the Imatari kind of has this kind of shadowy, mysterious spiritual force that exists. It's called the Maiorum. It's kind of what tells them what to do, very much like their leader. But then they have like their voice piece, who is Cronus, who's going to be our villain. He's also Arrhenius's dad.
Wow.
But they're estranged. They haven't spoken in years. That lived in different places for a long time. But everything's kind of coming to a head in Centrals because the Majorum have dictated that a new planet has been found, Altair Domi. Earth is right now in a post-apocalyptic setting. So the apocalypse has happened several times over.
Right.
It's kind of a wasteland. There's not much left. So they have dictated that these groups of people are to leave to go settle a new planet, but they want a new leader to do that. So they're electing a new leader. Come to find out, Arrhenius is picked, and he didn't see it coming. No one else did. He wasn't even on the ballot, and he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
So Cronus, his dad, he has a I'm thinking of the word. I'm just stop for a second. Again, not a morning person, so I'm trying to keep on track here. Vera is his right hand woman. She is a Benetrix. She's an elite assassin. Cronus orders her to protect Arrhenius while he goes out and does this task that the Majorum have commanded him, because he was chosen to be the next leader. And they have to find these seeds that have been lost to time. It's because they want them to bioterraform the new planet to resemble Earth. So they want Earth seeds.
Right.
That was kind of inspired by the seed vaults in Svalbard, Iceland.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually go to a seed vault that's very similar, but again, if it survived multiple apocalypses. So they don't like each other. She's very, very grumpy and doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't want to be there either. They have a lot of character growth that goes on, lots of fun friction back and forth between the two, and they kind of set off from there. And there's all different types of cool tech and fights and monsters. It's really fun. There's even like a romance subplot, not between them. I don't like that. That's one of the things you can, like, tropes I never liked. You're like, oh, they're gonna fall in love. This is gonna be boring.
Yeah.
So it's not that. I will say that. That's kind of near the end of the book, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a really fun story. It is genre-wise dystopian sci-fi adventure. It's dual POV, and it's first person. I like writing in first person. I think you can really kind of get into the characters' heads that way.
Yeah.
And you can kind of experience it through their eyes. You can kind of, read their thoughts, how they feel a particular way, whether they show it to the person they're interacting with or not. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Where did the original idea come from? You mentioned seeds earlier on in Svalbard, etc. So where did the seed idea for Imatari come from?
That actually came later on. I had everything down as far as the story goes and the characters and kind of how I wanted everything to play out. But I was just really looking for inspiration, because there's a lot of sci-fi things where they're looking for an energy source or what have you. Like, what is something that would be a fresh take that would be a compelling story? And I'd actually seen something about the seed vault. I was like, what? How cool would it be if the things that we're looking for, that all these scientists are prepping for, actually came into play?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So how, without giving the ending away, how does it end? Does it end on a cliffhanger? Then Chimera kind of takes over the story, or do you close all of the loops and start new loops in the next book?
I'm very cruel. I actually ended it on a cliffhanger.
Oh.
I know. I have a love-hate relationship with cliffhangers. But I like the idea, and I love the ending, because you're just like, what? Like, and it's definitely going to be just a jumping off point for book 2. Things are going to get crazy. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Do you find, I mean, I have no problems with cliffhangers whatsoever. I mean, I leave a lot at the end of chapters and all this stuff when I'm writing as well.
Yeah.
And even in the end of a book, I have no problem with it, because I think, it as long as it's not sort of too sort of dead and it just cuts it off, and, the reader doesn't know how to feel or where it's going from there. But with a good cliffhanger, what I think is that it can start conversation, and it can get people talking about what's happening next, what might come next, what they would like to see next, and all that sort of stuff. And then from there, I think if book two starts off as you've just said, it sort of follows it on. I think that's a great thing, not only from a reader's perspective, but from you as an author as well. It helps to pull people through your series, which is more. And we'll talk about Chimera in a moment. Is there going to be another one after?
Yeah, I originally plotted for a trilogy.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I have as well. So yeah, because from what you've just described, it's a big story. It's huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, to cram it all in one book, yeah, that would be ridiculous. But so I think, yeah, a trilogy often works quite well in that respect. So let's talk about Chimera a little bit now. Let me ask you first of all, is how far along are you with it?
A little over halfway.
Okay.
But again, sci-fi, and I tend to be quite wordy, and then I kind of have to pare things down. Yeah, the original book was like 180,000 words, and kind of had to rein it back to a nice slim and trim 130. So
Yeah.
it's just under 400 pages. I'm hoping to kind of hit a similar mark with the second book. So yeah, it's getting there. I'm really hoping to have it finished soon.
No, that's nice. You mentioned deadlines earlier on. Can you do you have a deadline in mind for it in terms of publishing it?
I do. I'm hoping for fall. I published Imatari late August of 23. So I'm hoping to kind of stick to right around there, like, a
Yeah,
year out or so.
that's
So we'll
great.
see how much editing is
Yeah,
involved and
that's
how long it takes. Because I do everything myself. Yeah, I had no idea. I wasn't on social media. I had no idea about Bookstagram or Book Talk. I had not nary a clue how any of this worked. Marketing is a beast. That's not something that comes in my nature easily. So it's been very much a learning experience
yeah.
it's indie publishing and just learning as I go. Lots of mistakes, a lot of putting my foot in my mouth,
Oh yeah.
but we're getting there. I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited to publish the second one. Definitely kind of knowing the lay of the land now.
It's a huge learning curve, isn't it? The marketing side of things. As
Hmm.
you said earlier on, the writing, if you like, is the easy bit. It
It
is
is.
the marketing side of things. So it's really the only way to get out to do it is to get yourself out there. Let people know who you are, what you do, how you do it, that kind of thing, really. So they build a relationship with you, and then they'll buy your books, and kind of so it goes on from there. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It is one heck of a steep learning curve to kind of get it all done, and it takes a long time as well. You know, if you're doing social media and things like that, to build an audience on social media who then might join your newsletter, who then may buy your book. So I'm hesitant to say that it's a numbers game, but to a degree it is. It's getting yourself out there to as many people as you possibly can, as many of the right people, let's just say.
Hmm.
That's the important thing, and that's really hard to do when you're not or you've never done any kind of marketing before. So but what it means, when with you being on here, is that you believe in your story, and that's the important thing as well, because that comes across, that passion for it. When you were talking about it, I'm sitting here thinking, she loves this book, she loves this story and these characters, and that's really important because that comes across, and it allows readers to start developing those same sort of relationships as well. So fantastic. So talk about Chimera then. Let's talk about the next bit. Go through the kind of story a little bit again without giving too much away, if you would.
Well, it's because again, it ends on a cliffhanger. I can't really give away too much.
No.
There's definitely going to be like a fight to end all fights. People are going to get what's coming to them in a really cool way.
Good.
It begins with a funeral, so we're
Oh, wow.
starting off with a bang.
Yeah.
Um, it's very much going to be let's gather the forces kind of a vibe with the story for the beginning part of the story, the first half. Our two main characters, Ren and Vera, are not going to be together, and they were together, kind of learning each other and growing as friends and learning about each other through the first book. But the second book, they're going to have to take that growth and they're going to be separated. And then there's going to be a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of paranoia, like what's the other one doing? There's going to have to be trust to know. I really hope that they're going to do right by me, and some fears might sink in. Maybe some characters are going to make some decisions that they they shouldn't, and they're gonna have to pay the consequences for those and then pick up the pieces. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, yeah, sounds it. Have you killed off any characters um, on purpose? They
I
kind of,
have,
yeah.
yes.
How do you feel about that? A lot of people think, because I've done it as well. You killed off a main character or a character that had some weight in your story. People come back to me, why did you kill them off? Because for me, it was kind of a natural progression. It's where that character needed to go. How did you feel about it when you wrote Mel?
um, I liked it, and I did it. I think with aplomb and style. I did lots of foreshadowing, little
Yeah.
bits, word choices that I picked out here, little things the characters said. So I think that the reader can kind of glean, like, it's not all going to be okay. Like
Yeah.
I want it to be, but I don't think it's going to be. But it's for the character to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
It deconstructs their world and their role the way they thought it was supposed to be, but then everything changes. The veil falls, and they see things for what it is when they confront the villain, and they get betrayed in the worst possible way.
Mm.
And it's very heartbreaking, but it's very much fuel for book two. It's some mighty revenge and vengeance. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, mine are the same. I mean, one of my characters kills off quite a few people in it. She is a bit psychopathic, but yeah, so,
Nice.
but all of those characters that she's killed off have had a part in it, and they've had conversations that people or readers have been part of as well. So it's oftentimes when something like that happens, when people come back and they said, "Why did you kill her off? What was so wrong with her? Why did you kill?" Because it was kind of natural. It was kind of what needed to be done, as you said, to move the story along, to move the character, so that character growth could happen and into the sort of second and third books as well. And I think that's really important. And I don't think it's much of an issue to kill characters off. A lot of people hate it, but I think it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't kill off anyone that's super important or any main characters. I won't do that. Yeah, Game of Thrones was a rough read in
Yeah,
in that regard. You're like,
yeah, yeah. I've
no.
got it on the
So
shelf
I
behind me,
I
actually.
do, yeah. I make you care about them, and they have a role, but I make sure not to get anyone that you're really gonna to feel really badly about.
Your books, like mine, are kind of about. I mean, mine is about an altered evolution. Aliens have
I
been
checked it
changing our
out. It looks really
DNA.
cool.
Yeah, making us who we are today, as opposed to what we would have been perhaps if we hadn't been interfered with, if you like, with our DNA. So, in your books as well, does AI play any part in the story?
It does. But you don't really find out about that until actually book three. And then
Okay.
kind of everything falls into place. And it's going to be a massive aha moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of as a little hint will be is what happens if humankind ends up treating AI or having AI interfere in the spiritual side of humanity. I love looking at religions and how they influence cultures and mindsets and people,
Yeah.
especially if you mix that with technology. It's very interesting on
Yeah. Yeah.
how it can motivate, humanistic behaviors and drives.
Yeah, I mean, it's prevalent now in the news, isn't it, with the things that Elon Musk is doing? I think I heard on the news yesterday that they had successfully implanted a chip. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm like, okay, wow, this is, we're kind of going down the cyborg route earlier than I thought we were going to be.
Yeah, we're in the future, baby.
We're already there. It's already there. So in terms of AI, then taking it out of the books for the moment, how do you feel about it as an aid to writing?
I actually don't use it for writing. I've never tried, so I don't know if it's like helpful for helping like spark a scene or whatnot. But I'm a bit of a purist in regard
Yeah.
to my writing. I
Yeah.
don't use it. I don't use it for art. I feel like that's very much a human type of thing. There's some really cool stuff that's come out of it, and I appreciate the tech for what it is, but I don't use it. No.
No, and I hadn't, like you, I like that pure, the story has come from me. That's it. However, it's something really interesting. When I spoke to Keela Damar a few weeks ago now, she on one of another podcast, she uses AI, but she doesn't use it to write scenes and chapters and that sort of stuff. And you kind of touched on it earlier, a moment ago, when you were talking about it coming up with ideas. So, you might use something like ChatGTP, for example, if you're kind of stuck on for an idea or maybe a direction, she will ask the AI for just some ideas, and then that sparks others. So she may completely disregard everything, and I think she often does, that ChatGPT gives her back, but it gives her that the idea, the spark to move off in another direction. So I said to her then, and I wondered whether or not it was kind of an antidote really for writer's block, in as much that, you just type an idea and it comes up with whole lists of different things. I mean, I've used it for research. That one, just really to find out about sort of alien landings and UFO sightings and things like that. The sort of part of my sort of story, and it comes up with ideas really quickly. And certainly, if it gives me references that I can then go and do further research on. But I've never used it like you to write anything. I am very much a purist, but I think it could be good if you need ideas to move further forwards, just to see, to kind of get you out of a rut a little bit. I think that's perhaps a good thing for it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great idea.
yeah, it's just something that I haven't done it yet properly, because I haven't, the story's kind of here. I can see it and hear it, so I can type it out. But I can imagine that there will be a point where I'm perhaps looking for, a different idea, a different direction to go in, and that's probably the only time I would use it. Because, like you, I am very much a purist. I want it to be me. That I wrote that's it. Now, moving on from your sci-fi stuff, so we'll leave AI alone for a moment or two. Um, am I right in thinking that you're writing a thriller romance? You've got a work in progress. Is it called The Houseboy?
It is, yes.
What can you tell us about that, or anything, or nothing?
It's still kind of in its infancy. I'm working on that in conjunction with Chimera, just splitting the time between the two.
Yeah.
But that's going to be kind of set in present day, and it kind of jumps back to the 80s. It's actually a story that I have that I kind of came up with when I was working as a nurse. And
Right.
one of the main characters is also a nurse. And then the other one is a student who's now older and kind of retelling his story and kind of how he got there.
Mhm.
So it's kind of an unreliable narrator situation. So those are fun.
Yeah.
It also has a house as a character that's almost kind of sentient in the way it's written. I think that's going to be kind of fun. It's going to be a character of itself.
Wow.
So not spooky or haunted, but definitely something's going on here kind
Yeah.
of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that project as well. It's kind of, I love just the huge world building things that go into sci-fi.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of thinking, a lot of you have to come up with your own terminology, your own tech, your whole world, everything. You have to think about what it would be like, and you have to kind of write within those confines. You can't use like, oh, it smells like fresh dew. There is no fresh dew. The world is is not in good shape.
Yeah.
There's no natural water, that kind of thing. So you have to remember that when you're writing. So I definitely feel like writing sci-fi is um is a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's really fun. The payoff is great. But it's been kind of fun to explore writing in a modern day setting to
Hmm.
where you can say things smell like X, Y, or Z. So you can kind of like I feel like the brushstrokes can be a little bit broader in that sense. So it's really fun to kind of explore that as well. Again, just having fun and just being creative. It's really good.
Yeah, I love the idea of a sentient house. That sounds really fascinating. You know, already my mind is going, well, I could take that and do that's amazing. Well, that's fantastic. I should really look forward to when that comes out. You must let us know when that comes out so that we can
Of course, yeah.
talk about that again. That would be great. So let's finish off then today, because we've been talking for quite some time now. So let's round things off. Where can people buy Imatari now?
It's on Amazon right now. I was trialing doing their exclusive Kindle,
Okay, yeah.
Kindle Unlimited.
Unlimited, yeah.
So you have to. I had ebooks in Apple and Barnes and Noble, but I found out just keeping on top of everything was a lot. All those multiple distribution streams.
Yeah.
So it's just with Amazon for right now, and I feel like that's easier. The paperback and the hardback quality is really good. I'm very impressed. I have
yes. Have a look. Wow, there you go.
There it is.
No,
but
really
yeah,
nice.
it's a beautiful book. It came out really nicely. Very proud of it.
I love the cover.
So that's where you can get it. It's on Amazon. It's hardback, paperback, as well as ebook.
I really love the cover. Did you design that yourself, or did you have someone come and design
I did,
it?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I did everything myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really nice. So what I'll do is I will put links to your website and everywhere else where people can reach you and make contact with you, be in the description for this video and on the podcast itself. So, people can get hold of you and of course they can get in touch, join your newsletter, buy your book, that kind of stuff. So that all that will be on. But you must let us know once Chimera is out, and of course now once the Houseboy is out as well. We want to know all about that. So thank you for coming on today. It's been lovely to speak to you. It's been lovely to meet you. As I said, I've been trying to and wanting to chat to you for quite some time because of the similarities between our books. So thank you very much for coming on, and please let us know when you've got your next work out.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Yeah, I've been checking out your book as well, and it's so cool. I just love that we're fellow sci-fi writers. There's so much in common, and I love the podcast. And this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jenna. It's been lovely to speak to you, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
Hey, you as well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another captivating episode of the Page Turners podcast. We hope you enjoyed delving into the pages with us, discovering new stories, and revisiting beloved classics. If you're as passionate about books as we are, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your feedback keeps us bringing you fascinating discussions, author interviews, and book recommendations. Remember, the adventure never ends when you have a book in hand. Until next time, keep turning those pages and let the magic of storytelling continue to inspire your imagination. Happy reading.